Welcome back to Coloring Through the Bible. My name is Keegan Harkins, and today we are talking about following our God. We're looking at Exodus chapter 40, which is the last book of Exodus. We have finally come to the end of coloring our way through the book of Exodus. We've been reading this book for a couple months, and hopefully there have been some things that you have read that have touched your life. Hopefully you've been encouraged by what you've read in the book of Exodus. Well, the thing that I got the most out of Exodus chapter 40, this last chapter, is the fact that even a powerful leader must learn to follow. I mean, no matter how well thought out or detailed our plan may be, if we're not following the movement of the Holy Spirit, we're just wandering around aimlessly. And few people understood that more than Moses. Exodus ends with kind of the beginning of his epic journey as a leader. So the entire book of Exodus has been gearing up for this. We read about God preparing Moses from infancy to be the leader of his people. We've seen how God moved with incredible miracles to protect, provide, and free the Israelites. We've watched this kind of reluctant leader grow closer to God and change from this man who stood in front of the burning bush, complaining that he had a stuttering problem, telling God he was wrong for picking him, into this national hero who really just became a phenomenal leader of the nation of Israel. The people looked to him for everything. I mean, not only does he make decisions that affect the entire community, but he speaks to God, or, he spoke to God on the Israelites' behalf. He sat in judgment of their complaints. He was the final authority. But Moses wasn't just a leader for a limited period of time in a specific group of people. Long after Moses died, thousands of years after Moses died, he's still a man who leads God's people. We read the books that he wrote, and we learn from those books how we should live and how we should lead. And that's what we've been doing for the last couple of months. We've been learning and following the leadership example that Moses set all those years ago. And when I look at Exodus chapter 40, I see that the most important part of Moses' leadership skills was the fact that he relentlessly followed God's lead. Exodus 40 in verses 36 through 38, it tells us that, God's presence rested as a cloud. And when God's presence rested, the people stayed put. And when God moved, they packed up and followed. Now that sounds pretty simple. But now imagine that you're Moses. How hard do you think it is to stay put when danger is threatening? How hard would it be to move if 600,000 people want to stay where they are? Can you and I be obedient enough to leave a place of ease and comfort and enter into a scary and unknown situation? God calls us to step out of our comfort zones. And if we trust the one that we follow, we definitely can. If we have that kind of a relationship where we're trusting God, we can get up even when the future looks scary because we trust the one we're following. Psalms 103 reminds us, know that the Lord is God. It is He who made us. We are His. We are His people, the sheep of His pasture. And Psalms 23:1, almost everybody I would think has heard this psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. If God is the one who's taking care of us, we can follow because we know that He's not going to lead us into a place that He can't protect us. He's not going to lead us in a place to harm us. We can follow Him because we trust Him. God's often described as our shepherd. And you see, a shepherd doesn't just herd his flocks. He leads them. And especially in the time that the Gospels and the Old Testament and the New Testament were written, a shepherd lived with his people. His sheep, he devoted his life to protecting them. He would put himself between the sheep and the wild animal. I mean, this is a time when there were bears, there were lions roaming around Israel, and the shepherd would only lead his sheep where they were going to be safe. And if they were in a situation where they weren't safe, he was their first line of defense. Jesus said in John 10, verses 3 and 4, he calls his own sheep by name. He leads them out. When he's brought out all his own, he goes on ahead of them. And the sheep follow him because they know his voice. A good leader has to be a good follower, but not just a follower. If we want to lead, if we want to be the type of person that others follow, we need to make sure that we're following Christ. We need to follow the Holy Spirit. And that means that sometimes we need to be quiet and listen. And sometimes it means that we need to walk by faith because we can't see where we're going. We follow not because we're afraid of punishment, but because we love and trust the Good Shepherd. See, a sheep follows the shepherd because they love him, they trust him. He's not driving behind them, pushing them out of the way. He's leading them. That's what God does with us. He doesn't come behind us and push us. He doesn't whip us and make us go the direction that he wants us to go. He leads us. And it's up to us to follow. And if we want to be a leader, then we need to follow the Good Shepherd. Now, my encouragement for you today is to think about who and what you're following. We're all leading someone. I mean, even if we don't realize it, there's always somebody who's watching us, seeing how we live our life, seeing how we respond to opposition, seeing how we handle the problems that arise in our life. There's more people watching us, especially when we say we're Christians. They're watching. And we may never realize it, but we're leading people, even if we'll never know. So let's make sure that we're leading others in the direction of the Good Shepherd. Thanks for watching today. I hope you have a truly blessed day.